Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at www.audibletrial.com/heroes, villains, and sidekicks. Over 180 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Episode 37, Here's Negan, Part 6. This week on the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, we'll be continuing our exploration into the origin of The Walking Dead's biggest baddie, Negan, and his deadly friend Lucille, in Part 6 of our Here's Negan series, where we'll be covering issues 10 through 12 of Negan's origin in Image Plus. So I've saved up a bunch of issues so we can do another Image Plus roundup of Robert Kirkman's, slowly revealing to us the origin of Negan. Again, 4 pages at a time. It's so painful. So instead of, again, doing just 4 pages, we're going to go ahead and go through issues. So I've saved up some more, and we're going to go through issues 10 through 12. Now, remember, they're 4 pages apiece, so we'll sort of just go through each issue and break them down panel by panel, page by page. Issue 10. Now, I have to say that this was one of my favorite issues of the whole run so far, and it was so simple and so low-key, but man, it was so good. Now, we start on page 1 with Negan fighting alone, smashing walkers, as he goes through them, just bashing them up with Lucille. Now, he hasn't actually called the bat by name yet, and there's no barbed wire, but I'm assuming, this is going to be Lucille, and he has been getting pretty handy with it. So as he stops to get a drink from a pond, he hears a crack behind him, and he looks up, and there's a middle-aged couple, and they look scared. I'm not sure how they made it as long as they have, but they look scared. And they ask him if he's, in a safe place, if he has people that around him, that if he's safe. And you can tell these people are not, they're not survivors. They're not probably going to make it very far. And then on page 2, we see Negan and his new friends walking along, and they're telling him how they lost their daughter in one panel. Then in another panel, we see them being torn apart. Negan, of course, is the only survivor. Negan is then seen with another companion who is telling him about how they lost someone. And yep, you guessed it, in the next panel, she's being torn to shreds. Now, Negan really has not said a word, really, in these pages so far. And in the last 2 panels on page 2, he meets another couple, a brother and sister. They're sitting around a fire, and she's telling Negan how they lost their father. Again, he hasn't said anything this whole issue. And she told him that they were, being attacked, and the father said run, and he would distract them. So they ran, and he didn't make it. And in the last panel of this page, we see them being attacked, Negan and her and the brother, and she is getting bitten on the neck, and her brother is being torn to shreds. So here's another, another couple, another group that sort of took up with Negan that is now dead as well. Then on the last page, the girl and Negan are walking out of the store where the attack happened. It looked like a store, it might have been a library. And she's in shock, and she's holding the bite mark on her neck, and she speaks, and she starts to say something. She says, I didn't even feel it. It happened so fast. I didn't. And then Negan just cuts her right off, looking her in the eye, and says, F you. That's it. He's done. She is stunned, but then she just keeps, he just keeps going, telling her to F off. You're bit now, just die. I mean, he's had it. In all these pages, again, we don't know how much time has taken place, but people are coming into his life, telling them, how all their stories of loss and pain and regret, and then being killed, being ripped to shreds. Is he mad about always being the one lone survivor? Does he hate their weakness? Or is he just sick of the constant stories and talking? I mean, and it doesn't matter. He tells her that she let her dad die, and now her brother, and now she's bit, so she should just die. And then he walks away, and she's just stunned, sort of just standing there. And actually, that wasn't the last panel. That was page 3. Because then he walks away. And on the last page, Negan is at the fire again. It's night, and it looks like he's cooking up something, a rabbit or something. And he looks up to find a man coming out of the woods. The man is smiling, looks to be in good shape, and is well armed. And he simply says hi and introduces himself. He says, "Hi, I'm Dwight. Looks like you could use some company." So cool, right? We see Dwight, happy with no scars, introducing to himself to his future friend and tormentor. I mean, if only he knew, he would just keep walking. Now, a word from our sponsor. For you, the listeners of the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out all the books that they have. And again, I've been recommending the Walking Dead Rise of the Governor, especially when I'm doing these episodes, because you just get just an amazing background on the Governor character. Now, I just did a Michonne episode a few back. If you get a chance, listen to that one, because we really go into the Governor and Michonne. And these books are fantastic. And again, I read the book, but I'm listening to them again because I've got a decent commute, so I just sort of hit play and listen to the Rise of the Governor. And you can too. Just head over to audibletrial.com, Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks. Again, that's audibletrial.com/Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks, and pick up your free audiobook. Now back to the show. Now let's take a look at issue 11. So these 3 were just fantastic, because this is just another incredible issue. What I love about this issue and the last is the subtle use of time. I mean, in all its sort of guises, its methods, to the time between the panels, to see the characters change and grow. Like I said, this one's use of time is just incredible. Now, what I'm talking about is the fact that in the last issue and in this one, we really have very little of time passing, the sense of time passing. How much has gone by? In this issue, we kind of do, because we see that there's a season change. But that's just it. I mean, how much time is going by? Obviously, it must be months in this issue. I remember, I'm always going to keep mixing episode and issue up with this because it's a TV show. Because we see winter, so we know that much time has gone by. So I love that idea. How much they'll space out a page in time-wise, it's just fantastic in these. And I can't imagine writing this, just because, again, how do you pack a good amount of story in to satisfy the reader, but still want them to keep reading and finding out? It's really fascinating. I'd love to hear an interview with him on how he paced each 4 pages out. Well, this issue picks up right after the last issue. Negan is by the fire, and he and Dwight are talking. Now, Negan asks him if he's holding a crossbow, and Dwight, of course, says it is, and that Negan says he will split his rabbit with him if he can hold the crossbow while they eat, which is just funny. I mean, I almost said it's so Negan, but it is. Can I hold your crossbow and you can have my rabbit? And this is neat because we also see that Dwight had a crossbow at the beginning, which sort of plays in with the TV show with him and Daryl having this sort of rivalry. Him wanting to be like Daryl, I think, more than anything because of what he's given up. But that's the TV show. So they sit and eat. And in the last panel, Negan is walking through the woods with Dwight, telling him he better not be leading him into a trap because he's a bad mother effer. But Dwight, we don't really quite know yet, but we're sort of realizing he's just being friendly at this point. He's just Dwight. He hasn't been beaten down yet. Now, page 2 is a half-page splash. And what I mean by that is, if you're not sure, it's when a big image takes up half the page. A full-page splash would be when an entire, just one image, no panels, takes up a page. So this is a half-page splash where Dwight is showing off the group. And as they walk through them for the next few panels, Dwight is about to introduce them to Negan and Negan to them. And Negan tells him not to bother and says something along the lines of, if they're around in a few weeks or days, maybe he'll bother to learn their name. And now he doesn't want to hear. Again, this is a callback to that last issue where he was just sick of getting to know people who just died. Now, on the next page, Negan is actually helping someone load boxes, and it's actually Dwight's wife, Sherry, and she introduces herself to Negan and says, by the way, I'm Sherry. And Negan doesn't protest. But again, we don't know. It might have been weeks later, it could have been days later, it could have been a month later before he allowed this to sort of happen without arguing. Now, the next few panels are them working their way through the world, the gang working their way through the world. One panel is interesting. They're around a fire, and Sherry and Dwight are hugging. They're sort of curled up together, and Negan is just sitting there staring, sort of watching them. Then in a panel, they're moving through the forest, and it's snowing, so this is where we can see, the movement of time, that seasons must be going by. And on the last panel of that page, Negan is shaving, and Sherry is in the doorway. And we learn that they're in a motel because Negan mentions that he likes motels. And Sherry says something along the lines of she doesn't like motels or hotels, but she likes what's done in them. And so it seemed kind of flirty, and her facial expression, how it was drawn, it was a little strange because, of course, we know what starts happening with her and Negan at some point when, he's fully established. So that was a really kind of odd panel right there. Now, the last page is awesome. It shows that they're all fighting their way through this hotel. They must not have checked rooms, or they didn't know, and they're being overrun. And Negan is in the foreground of the panel, and he is swinging his bat. But he's not alone. They're all around him, and he's calling out all the different members of the group by name, directing them what to do. So, like, Bobby Sue, you move that way and do that, and da-da-da-da-da. So you see now that he's gone from being an outsider to, a member of a cohesive team, if not the leader. I don't know at this point if he has solidified himself as the leader. I don't think so, but they definitely are looking to him, and he is definitely barking in the orders. Like Rick, and like I think most good leaders, and I'll call Negan a good leader, who obviously had character flaws a lot of character flaws, but he was obviously a good leader because he kept people alive. But he didn't ask to be the leader. People just looked to him after him making, probably one decision after another that kept them alive. Now, issue 12 is the last one we'll be looking at. And in our last issue, we see the group dynamic solidify. On the first page, we see some long, thin panels of the group running from the hotel to safety. So this sort of starts up right off where that last one left off. And a lot of these have the past few issues. When they finally stop, they ask where Negan is, fearing he's been eaten. And in page 2 is an awesome splash page. And it's the whole page with Negan in the doorway and about a dozen walkers clawing at him as he fights through. I mean, it's a beautiful page. I love collecting original art. And this page, I would buy this page. I don't want to know what this page would cost, but I would buy it. Well, I couldn't buy it, how much it would probably cost, but I have to look it up. Charlie Adler, he sells his work. I cannot remember where it is. I will Google it, and I'll put that page, of course, over on heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, along with a lot of these pages and some images from them. Now, on the next page, Negan is sort of just getting himself a little clear, and he's yelling for them to fire on the walkers, and as he gets himself clear, they fire and mow him down. Now, on the last page, we see everyone looking at him. And again, this is, he is by himself, and they are looking at him. He is now the leader, just how they're looking at him. And then one of the members of the group asks, are we going to go back in? Are we going to clear out the place? And with that, Negan replies, no, it's too dangerous. He starts walking, then he says, follow me. And the group follows. And the last panel on that page has the group walking away. They're sort of in the background, walking towards the horizon. And in the foreground, Dwight is there. Not too far away, but he's off by himself. And he's looking down, sort of grimacing. And he realizes that he has pretty much just been replaced as the leader of the group. because he was, and he is being replaced by someone he brought in, and you can tell already he doesn't like it. And it's the beginning of just a huge pile of crap that Negan will pile up on him. I mean, right now, obviously, he isn't doing it purposefully. I think he really is just trying to survive and get them to survive, because now he might care about them. But, he's taken over and Dwight is not happy. So that's a wrap on 3 issues. In the issues, we see Negan find Lucille and Dwight go from being a distant loner to the leader of the group. And this is probably the core group that are going to make up the Saviors. And there's quite a lot going on in these 12 pages. And I'm going to say that it spanned probably a year again, because we saw this winter break in there. So winter happened. And we know that much time has gone by. So it's really interesting to see how Kirkman is able to play with time. So again, now until the next installment, there aren't a lot left. This was only supposed to actually go 12 issues. And now it is going to go to, or was it supposed to go to 14? Either way, it's been extended. So it's been extended a few more issues. So we're going to get to do more of these, which I'm really excited about. I believe I have issue 13 on the shelf behind me. So I'm going to have to wait till we get a couple more. And then I'll do another group of 3. Well, I want to thank you for listening to the show this week. Again, head over to the site and you can check out the post for this episode right over on the episodes page. And it's got, some clips from the show and pages from the Here's Negan from Image Plus. And if you want to hear about a specific character, now I just did a really fun Michonne episode a few episodes back. And if you want to hear about other characters from The Walking Dead or from comics or from TV or movies or books, again, head over to the site, heroesvillainsandsidekicks.com, and you can click on that little microphone right at the top of the page and leave me a message about who you'd want to hear about. And then we'll play that on the show. It was really fun. We did it back in a Wild Dog episode a ways back, and it was fun. I really enjoyed it. You can also, of course, head over to our Facebook page. Just search for Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks, or Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks over on Facebook, and we'll pop right up. And you can ask me to highlight a character over there. So again, I want to thank you for listening to the episode this week. I'm Kevin Volo, and this is the Heroes, Villains, and Sidekicks Show. We'll be back next week with more. Take care.